Welcome to the Bold Book of the Day with Dr. Denise Nicholson, a show that is a central hub and safe space for authors to share their stories. The Bold Book with Dr. Denise begins now.
Welcome to the Bold Book of the Day. This podcast is for anyone looking for inspiration. Please subscribe. We are at a goal of reaching 1,000 subscribers. So if you love what you're hearing and you are one of the authors that depend on this ecosystem, please subscribe to our channel. Thank you very much. Today, I have the pleasure of introducing to you a very special and a kind guest. He's a man who spent 5 decades as a world-renowned gastroenterologist. He's been treating royalty and celebrities, and then he reinvented himself as an award-winning children's book author. Dr. Peter Cotton is the creator of the beloved Fred and Snake series, now spanning 10 books with honors including 6 Mom's Choice Gold Awards and the International Impact Award. Please welcome Dr. Peter Cotton.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me, and I brought along my guest, which is Fred.
Hello, Fred. Oh, Fred is gorgeous.
Fred the Snake, he's the hero of my 10 books. He enjoys listening in. He doesn't say very much, so he's not going to interrupt, but he'll be listening. So
for those of you who are listening and you don't have the pleasure of seeing Fred, can you describe Fred to the audience?
Well, this is a Fred. He's a puppet of orange and yellow. That's his regular striped colors. He's looking a little alarmed because he's got his eyes, he's got lipstick on and long eyelashes. So he's got all the stuff, but he's a lot of fun. He listens and he chats along. But he started because the first book I wrote was about it was not actually a book. It was a bedtime story to my children on how not to cross the road. And I told them about how not to cross the road, starting with a snake who when he went out, he saw across the road, he saw a barber's pole with stripes on it. He thought it was another snake, so he rushed across with never a glance into the run of an ambulance, and he got a bit squished, but then he got mended. So that was the first one. And I'll tell you, if you like, about why I chose a snake, because you'd think that other people my kids might have preferred a koala bear or a puppy or something like that.
Yes.
But it's because, as you said, I used to be a gastroenterologist, a stomach doctor. And I was at the beginning of using those flexible instruments, endoscopes they're called, where you could look inside people's intestines. I was involved in the development of those early on. And when I was telling my children when they were young, a very long time ago, about what I did every day, I showed them a picture of one of these flexible black endoscopes, and they said, "It's a snake, it's a snake." And so we chose a snake. And he's been with me on all of the 10 books. We got some other people on board to share the journeys with him, which I can tell you about if you like, but he's been there all along. He's been all over the world.
He's adorable. He's very modern because he has the very lashes or very furry high eyebrows, and he's bright and colorful. So even though he was born or created a long time ago, he looks very modern.
Oh, he keeps up, and my grandchildren and my grandchildren make sure he's really on top form.
So you spent over 50 years as a gastroenterologist and a professor.
Yep.
What made you decide to publish a children's book series?
Well, when I finished my medical career, my wife said, "I married you for life, but not for lunch. So you better find something else to do." So that at that stage, we had grandchildren who had remembered their parents, my children, had remembered my bedtime story about Fred. So they said, "What happened to Fred?" Actually, they said, what happened to Fred, because in the first book, he's in two pieces for a little while.
Right.
And so that I found that story and I improved it a bit. I found a wonderful, wonderful illustrator, Bonnie Lemaire, who lives in Canada. And so we put together the first book, and that seemed to be popular. So that's kept me busy. There are other things one does in retirement, play golf, travel, sit on the beach, have fun, particularly have fun with the grandchildren and the great-grandchildren. So Fred is something that we all do together and enjoy.
You talked about the transition from being a doctor to children's author as a surprisingly natural, and I was wondering, how could that be surprisingly natural considering the kind of physician that you were and practicing? So what do you think the two careers actually have in common?
Well, that's a very good question, and I'm not quite sure what the answer is. They're both fun. I really enjoyed being a doctor. That was very special. I did write a lot as a doctor. I published textbooks and a lot of articles and stuff like that. So I enjoyed writing.
Mm-hmm.
But writing children's books is a little different. When you write a scientific paper, it's got to be short and snappy and very well researched and really tight, whereas children's books tend to be a little bit more loquacious, and mine are all in rhyme, and I didn't do any rhyming in my medical career.
This is to remember while you were studying.
Yes, yeah, maybe. So those are the only connections I can think of, apart from the first book where Fred had to go to hospital and get mended after he got into the path of an ambulance. And that was an interesting story because the doctor who saw Fred in the hospital said that he needed a very special thread for mending bendy types of healing. And it's a thread that only comes from a plant that grows beneath the rhinoceros in the jungle. So we had to send a text to Jungle Jim to see if he would be brave enough to go and disturb a rhino and find this plant, which he did, because as one supposes, Jim enjoyed hunting rhinoceroses. That's one of my unusual rhymes. And so he did, and he brought the thread back and the doctor mended him. So there's a medical connection there.
So how do you get children to be excited about these storylines and these characters?
Well, I think I tried to make all the stories fun. They had adventures in all of the other stories, and also I throw in a little bit of anxiety, some sort of problem that gets solved as a sort of teaching point. So certainly you don't want to be crossing the road in a hurry without looking left and right. That was the message in the first one. And the second book, when the boy took the snake to school, which was a little bit unusual, there are not too many snakes at schools. Everyone was a bit nervous at first, but he became very popular because he was very helpful. He turned himself into things that they needed, like a soccer goal and a jump rope and a water slide. So in that book, he showed people how to be helpful and get respected. And then in the camping book, he learned that when you go out hiking, you don't eat the pretty looking mushrooms and berries and things like that. When he was in Alaska, on the 9th book on my travel across the United States, Fred and his friends met up with a bear. And so he was told by Jungle Jim, if you meet a bear, be brave, shout out loud and madly wave, get together in a bunch to avoid becoming lunch. So that's another message if you find yourself up against a bear. And then there are sort of another one when they went to the beach. Fred's girlfriend Bernadette got carried away on a wave on her floaty thing and had to be rescued. So that's another message about how to be careful if you go swimming in the ocean, which happens to be right behind me here. If you look out of my window, I'm looking out over the beach on the Atlantic Ocean.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
So it sounds like there is a lesson in each book.
Yep.
Or multiple lessons in each book. And so this is something that schools and parents would appreciate for their children. You present a lot. How do you find the reception at the schools when you go with Fred, or do you take Fred with you all the time?
Oh, certainly I take Fred. He wouldn't. He would be very upset if I left him behind. But I have some electric snakes that I take to schools, which cause absolute havoc. The teachers don't like that at all because the kids all over the place chasing these electric snakes around the classroom. So yeah, they seem to enjoy it, and I certainly do. It keeps me amused in my old age.
So I guess the experience is energetic for the kids.
Yeah, and that's a problem for the teachers because they got 40 kids, so they want them to sit still, but they don't. so it's a lot of fun. Yeah.
So when you go to the schools, do you have something? Do the teachers stay with you in the classrooms?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So do you have something to calm the teachers and something to excite the children?
I'm not quite sure. I certainly could excite the children. I'm not sure how to calm the teachers, although they're very experienced at dealing with young kids, so they do it pretty well. So it's not a big problem.
I like that the books are written entirely in the rhyme and verse because children tend to remember rhymes better and get the lessons. Was that the intention?
Yeah, I guess, although I didn't sort of set out to say, what should I do? It sort of comes naturally because I like doing that. And yes, at the schools, I often stop at the end of the sentence to see whether the kids could come up with the rhyming word. And they certainly do remember those better. And it's fun doing it. I think kids do enjoy trying to follow that.
Now, how do you adapt the stories to feel fresh and relevant for today's young readers? And what kind of lessons are you creating now?
Well, the books 7, 8, and 9 are when Fred and his friends, which incidentally include a couple of young kids now, Purdy and Jack, who happen to be my grandchildren, travel across the United States. So they go on an adventure traveling to a lot of the famous places. I'm sad to say, not Minneapolis, but they travel a number of other. I apologize for that. So they go to the national parks and they go to Niagara Falls and they go, as I mentioned, to Alaska. They go to Hollywood and do things like that. So I think there's a lot of educational stuff in that for the older of the young children. My books are sort of advertised from age 3 to 8, but the latest ones, and particularly the last one, can go a little bit older than that. Because the last one, as you know, is all about the Chinese zodiac, which is something I came across last year because I have a lot of Chinese friends because I've worked and lectured in China, traveled there a lot. I got a lot of Chinese friends, and they turned around, one of them, and said, "Does Fred realize that 2025 is the year of the snake in the Chinese calendar?" So I asked Fred about that, and he said, well, we'll have to look into that. So we looked into it and found out that the Chinese calendar is made up of 12 years that go in rotation. All of those years being represented by an animal, 12 animals, and the sequence of the years in the calendar, it depends on how they finished in the great race, when they had to race across the river to reach the heavenly gate and meet the Jade Emperor. And so my book, the 10th book, When Fred the Snake and Friends Learn the Chinese Zodiac, is all about the great race when they travel across the river on all of these animals that are beautifully illustrated by Bonnie Lemaire.
What a gorgeous book cover. Oh, wow.
Yeah, the illustrator is fantastic.
Yes.
I didn't meet her. I was introduced to her through a website right at the beginning, but I did everything remotely with her. As I said, she lives near Toronto in Canada. I didn't meet her until I was due to do the 4th book, which was when I thought Fred and his friends should travel around Charleston, South Carolina, where I live, a pretty city with a lot of nice things to see. And so I said to Bonnie, if you're going to illustrate Charleston, you better come and have a look at it. So she came down with her purple hair and her rather aggressive teenage son, and learned all about Charleston. So she illustrated Charleston. She's an amazing illustrator. She not only gets exactly what I'm trying to say, but she throws in some extras that I hadn't really thought of. And even now, when I look back at some of the older books, I see things that I hadn't really noticed before, little wrinkles that she's put in. She's fantastic. And as a result, not just my books, a lot of books she's illustrated, and she's actually writing her own books now.
Oh, wonderful.
Recommend those very strongly. Bonnie Lemaire.
I will look her up. So the book, the theme of the last book, the one about the zodiac, the Chinese zodiac, that book was themed around making new friends and embracing diverse cultural experiences.
Yep.
Why do you think that message was especially important for children at the time or right now?
Well, I don't think it's specifically at the time, except that, as I said, it's the year of the snake in the Chinese calendar, and it was published for the Chinese New Year. And a lot of people, not just Chinese, understand and enjoy Chinese New Year, which for a couple of weeks in January, February, every Chinese person, wherever they are in the world, has a great time dressing up and having wonderful meals and maybe joining in some lion dancing and things like that. So I think it's important for kids to learn about other countries. And indeed, Fred and I are talking about maybe taking him on a journey to somewhere else, maybe to Europe or maybe just to England, that I know a lot about, since that's where I grew up. Incidentally, as a puppet, Fred has been all over the world already. He's been in Australia and New Zealand and England and where else has he been? In India. He's been traveling around the world with me.
Did he write a book about any lessons from India?
No, I could.
Well, not did he, but did you?
I've written in my memoirs, I wrote a book about my medical life. I wrote quite a lot about India because I traveled there a lot, not only to lecture, but also to treat some people, which was very interesting in the old days. India is a fantastic country, tremendous history, amazing colors and smells and noises and people, and everyone's very cheerful, no matter how disadvantaged many of them are. It's an amazing place. Unfortunately, in the early days, I often ate a lot of things that I shouldn't have done, and I always got a little bit unwell when I was there. And each time I said, I'm never going back, but I always did. I love the place.
And each time you go back, you do the same thing. You eat all the delicious foods.
Well, I think, yes, I do. A little bit more careful, and but
Okay.
I think they've got a little bit more careful also. Maybe I'm staying in slightly more upscale places than I did when I was a bit younger. I have to say that my wife was rather sensitive about these things. On our first trip to India, took 3 pots of what was it? Some sort of a spread and a spoon, and she didn't eat anything in our 3 days in India apart from what she'd.
Did she take peanut butter?
It was peanut butter, exactly. And so she didn't get sick, but I did. I got sick. I got sick in Kathmandu. Yeah, so I've got a lot of experience.
And you knew better. You knew better.
I should have, especially as a stomach doctor, I should have. Yeah.
Wow. So you've had very interesting travel experiences. Please tell us, what was the experience that made you want to, that got you so excited you couldn't wait to write something about that experience?
Well, there's a lot of stuff about India. I had some very interesting experiences. And I'm going back 40, 50 years at a time when travel was very different. It was more difficult to arrange. There was no internet or email or any of that stuff. So the arrangements were made by mail, which took about three weeks to go in each direction.
Wow.
So it was a bit more chaotic. So I had some serious adventures lecturing there and actually treating patients over there. Some awkward times, but all good fun. So I've traveled a lot. My favorite place, actually, if you talk about a place to go rather than places where I have friends where I like to go, a lot of those, is actually Hong Kong. I started a meeting there a long time ago, 1985, with one of my students who came and worked with me in London. And he went back to Hong Kong to set up a department there. And I just liked the place. It's very attractive scenically, a lot of nice people, great food. And in fact, because of that meeting, I used to go pretty much every year until the 30th anniversary. And then this year I'm going again in December for the 40th anniversary of that first meeting. So I've got a lot of connections with Hong Kong. And that, of course, spread into China. I went to China for the first time in 1978, just after the Cultural Revolution finished. And I've seen China grow from a farming country to a superstar country, which is an extraordinary change. So I've been very fortunate to have made that travel. Another of my favorite places to go, we go everywhere, is to go to Australia and New Zealand, as I train a number of the stomach doctors in Australia. And so we go and stay with them at their beach houses and play their golf courses and drink their wine. It's not all bad.
So you sound well-traveled and like you wanted to explore the world, despite it probably was one of the requirements for teaching, for the kind of work that you're in. But what was your childhood like? Well, what kind of stories did you hear, and what kind of books did you read that made you so intrigued with the world and so intrigued with teaching young children?
That's a good question. Of course, when I was a kid, there were only a half dozen children's books. Now, if I go into a bookstore, I get depressed because there are so many of them.
Now you're inundated.
I mean, the chances of getting anyone's attention to my little books are rather small, which is why I'm talking to you, hoping that you would spread the word about Fred and my website, Peter Cottontails. Tails, that's Tales, not Peter Cottontails, as some people assume that I'm called after a rabbit, but I'm not. So how did we start that question?
I wanted to know, what was your childhood like?
Oh,
Yeah.
well, my dad was a country doctor in a village in the west of England. Pretty quiet, really. I used to spend my time riding my bicycle around the countryside and traveling to house calls with my dad as a doctor. But then, because there weren't any schools or anything nearby, I was away at school to a traditional British boarding school from the age of 7. So I was away from school a lot. But I did certainly enjoy the children's books. Winnie the Pooh was one of the big favorites. Hilaire Belloc, who wrote the cautionary tales, which were rhyming, and some reviewers have kindly likened me to Hilaire Belloc, and also Lewis Carroll and Dr. Seuss and Roald Dahl along the way. So I like to think I'm in reasonable company, although not too many people have recognized it yet.
That's extraordinary company. What do you mean? We know. What do you think about those authors and how they understood writing for children?
Yeah, I guess make it a bit simple. Obviously, be careful using long words. Like one of my long words was menagerie. If that word is new to you, I think it means a little zoo. So if you use unusual words, you've got to explain them. It's got to be fun. It's got to be cheerful. Got to be happy. But as I said, with some surprise, the cautionary tales of Hilaire Belloc are absolutely amazing. They're all about things you certainly shouldn't do, like when one of them was at the zoo and ran away and got eaten by a lion. That's all in rhyme. But the message there was, at the zoo, be sure to keep a hold of nurse for fear of finding something worse. And there was Henry King, who swallowed little bits of string, which unfortunately killed him. So fairly brutal, that one. But when I read that to kids now, they think, what is that about? That's very. Winnie the Pooh was certainly the big favorite. Are you familiar with Winnie the Pooh?
Yes, I'm familiar, and I've read the books for my children and my grandchildren, and now they have a movie, Winnie the Pooh. Yeah, he's gone on to the next level.
You've got to be a little careful making movies out of books that you're very fond of, because sometimes they don't come exactly the way you remember them or want them, but they've been good. And same thing applies to the Peter Rabbit stories, As I didn't know that I was apparently named after a rabbit until I moved to the United States. People started falling over when I gave my name at checkout counter. What was your mother thinking of, calling you after a rabbit? Really? But in fact, Peter Cottontail is an American invention. Beatrix Potter, the English author, wrote about Peter Rabbit, but also Flopsy and Mopsy and Benjamin Bunny and Cottontail, but she didn't put the two together. She didn't put Peter Cottontail together. I think that's a hallmark invention. But we've had fun with it. I was given, when I arrived in the States, I was given lots of rabbits. Only one live one. The rest of them were sort of cuddly rabbits, and we've enjoyed that connection.
Is that, I've heard or read somewhere that you have a large collection of rabbits?
Well, yeah, I did have a lot. One kid was impressed and started counting, and she gave up at 800 when around the house. That's That's including little trinkets and things, or knives and forks and plates, as well as cuddly rabbits. But we certainly have had a lot. I gave quite a few of them away, but we're still surrounded by rabbits. So got a big one next to me, as a matter of fact. I hadn't really noticed that on the table here.
Do you think your name have to do with your obsession or your collection?
Well, I guess they. I couldn't really avoid it.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for coming and sharing about your book. Where can the listeners get a copy of your book?
Well, all reputable bookstores, of course, and Amazon. You'll find it there with a lot of details, a lot of nice positive reviews, I'm glad to say. But then on my website, signed copies are available. That's petercottontails.com. That's Cottontails, Tales, not Cottontails, Tals.
That's right.
petercottontails.com. So that's me.
Guys, please go out and support Peter Cotton and get one of those books that will, there's a lesson in there for your children or grandchildren. So there's a lesson or two. So please go out and support. And I'd like to say, get a signed copy. Go to the website and get a signed copy, because Jeff Bezos has enough money on his hands. So let's go out and support our authors. I think this is one of the books that I'm going to get for my grandchildren. And it sounds like there's a book 11 that is in the works. Just let it be the audience's first time hearing it here and give us a preview. Will there be a book 11?
Well, at the moment, I'm actually working on a sequel to my memoirs, but when I'm finished with that, Fred and I will have a chat about it, and we'll also ask the grandchildren, and we put something out on my blog as to ask people what they think we should do. So there'll be a sort of democratic discussion.
Are there any topics or themes that you're thinking about tackling in the next series?
Well, a number of places have asked me whether I would focus on them, or like in Canada because of my wonderful illustrator. But I'm thinking maybe in England or Europe, and then I guess we could move on to the world or whatever. But those travel ones seem to be fairly logical.
Beyond books, do you have any other creative projects that you're working on? Like speaking or something else?
Well, I do. Yeah, I still asked to give lectures. As I mentioned, I'm be in Hong Kong later this year. I've got a big talk down in Orlando soon. So some people are still interested in some of my medical stuff. As I mentioned, I was fortunate to be in at the very beginning of that revolution in stomach medicine, with the use of these endoscopes for looking into your stomach and esophagus and other ends of the intestine, which have revolutionized the management of many digestive disorders. So I'm still asked to talk about those and do a little bit of writing about them. But mostly I'm busy with Fred.
What advice do you have for someone who is recently retired and just, have some creative juice spinning, but they're not quite sure what to do? Do you have any advice for, that person?
Sure, got to do something. And a number of my friends have actually started that process by studying rather than sort of writing, but go to a local college and sign up for some sort of interesting subject. It's not only interesting in itself, but then you meet with a lot of young people, and that's always stimulating. Yes. I think the older you get, the more important it is to keep with young folks.
Yes.
And then in any part of life, finding following your passion is so important, and doing what you enjoy doing and not necessarily what you're told you should be doing. provided it's legal, then that's the only advice that I would give to young people.
Follow your dreams.
Follow it, yeah, and it's hard work, and it's not, yeah, but it's the right thing to do.
Absolutely. I think that one of the things we can do for ourselves for self-actualization is start believing that no matter how old you are, you have purpose.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Hmm.
you're never too old to do something. There was a woman that I read about that she became an actress when she was over 80 years old. I believe 84 years old. And she was cast, she decided when she was 80 that she was going to study becoming an actress. And then she did um, an interview or audition. She did an audition for a movie, and she was casted in one of the greatest movies of all time, Wakanda.
Oh, okay,
She was
good,
the grandmother in that. And so,
wonderful.
yeah, so she was able to live her dreams, deciding at 80 years old that she's going to go back and study something, like you said, go to the neighborhood school or neighborhood college, and just find something that intrigued you and do something for yourself, because if you have life, you have purpose.
Yeah, well, that's very true. Thank you. I agree with that. Yep.
Thank you. So now, Dr. Cotton, we close every episode of the Bold Book of the Day with 3 questions I love to ask my guests. So are you prepared?
Well,
What's, what's one bold promise you can make to our audience today?
well, I will still make sure that as many people as possible know about Fred, because he's a very nice and helpful snake. There
Yes.
are, of course, some other snakes that you want to avoid, but this one and his books are the ones that you certainly should get familiar with. As we've discussed, there are 10 of them, and they're fun, whether you're a child or a parent or a grandparent. There's something in there for most people.
What bold statement would you like to make? Something that may cause a real paradigm shift in the way people think.
That's a very tough one, isn't it? I would go back to making sure that people should follow their passion, to not be put off by all the things that can put you off in this life. So to be bold without being too cocky, but just respect yourself in a way, and respect your feelings and wishes. Don't try and be molded by what people want you to be or what society thinks that you ought to be. There's something very, very special inside each of us that you need to let out and develop as best you can, not just sit back and wait and see what happens.
I think your books are designed also to give young people the freedom to explore and be more creative.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to reading one of the copies. And of course, I'm looking forward to reading to my grandchildren. Um, Before you go, what's a bold move that you'd like to make in the future?
I'm very happy where I am. Actually, I live I live on a wonderful house on a eco-friendly island that you have to go by boat, overlooking the beach, with my wonderful wife and with the children coming to visit. The idea of a physical move, no, absolutely not. This is my place. This is my happy place. Another bold move, a different sort of move. Maybe I should start painting or something. There are so many nice views around here.
Mm-hmm.
Get some paints and start messing with those. That might be quite interesting.
Ah, I like that. Is there a place where you go to sign books once in a while, or are you on a tour now?
Not on a tour, and I go to the local bookstores to do book signings, and I go to the occasional book conference, not usually a long way away. I went to one which was actually a snake show, which was
How appropriate.
there was about 100 booths selling snakes, and Fred and I were a bit intimidated. The booth next door was selling frozen rats that didn't look particularly attractive. But
You went to scare poor Fred.
he was a bit nervous, but we survived it.
Oh,
So,
Dr. Cotton, thank you so much. This has been an absolute joy from the start to the finish, from the operating room to the written page. You have built something truly extraordinary with Fred and his friends. And it is clear that the same curiosity, the same warmth, and the same dedication you brought to medicine for over 50 years is exactly what you poured into every single book. And so we're looking forward to the newest title when Fred and the snake, well, when Fred the snake and his friends learn about the Chinese zodiac. I am looking forward to that because I like, I'm into zodiac signs. I like to learn more about them. So I'm intrigued by them. So I'm looking forward to that. And so book is available now.
yes, it is. Yeah.
And the full Fred the Snake series can be found on your website.
Yep.
And wherever books are sold, guys. Yes.
Yep. Exactly. Yep. Everywhere.
So we will have all the links for you somewhere in here. So look out for those. And Dr. Cotton, thank you so much for spending the time with us today and coming and sharing all you can about Fred and his friends at the Bold Book of the Day. It's been a real pleasure. Is there something else you'd like to share with the audience before you go?
No, I just want to thank you. And Fred wanted to make sure that you understood. He's here all the time, keeping quiet, but enjoying it.
Fred is gorgeous. I love those colors. I love bold colors. So I love Fred, guys. He's got yellow and is that orange or pink stripes?
That's the first book. There he is, orange
Fred,
and yellow. Yeah, that's
Fred is a gorgeous fashionista. Okay.
Yeah, he's pretty special.
It's been a pleasure for me too. Thank you so much, Dr. Cotton. I appreciate you, and I'm hoping that you are going to be as busy as possible this year, signing books. And even if you're not traveling, you sign those books and send them out to us.
Okay, well.
All right. Thanks again. Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Thank you for joining us for the Bold Book of the Day with Dr. Denise Nicholson, a central hub and a safe space for authors to share their stories. Follow Dr. Denise on Facebook and Instagram at Denise Nicholson or go to denisenicholson.com. Remember, no one can share your story better than you.